I'm actually doing a project in the orthodontics market, which is kind of interesting. And one thing I've noticed is that the better practitioners, the bulk of their patients come from referrals. Um, Let me ask you this: who is the book specifically for?
Sure. The book is for anyone that's selling high-ticket items, products, services, and so it would apply particularly to anybody in professional services, so medicine, law, accounting, engineering, architecture, the professions. It would apply to anyone doing any type of consulting or coaching where they've got to find somebody who's willing to pay 5-6 figures potentially for a consulting engagement. And works particularly well with professional services, but these techniques also work very well, and as I highlighted in the book, they work well with manufacturers who are selling high-end services. So one example is a company that makes home elevators, and it works very well for them. So.
Fantastic. And my next question, my follow-up to that is, let's say we're talking about a person in these specific roles, and they say, well, I'm already getting a lot of referrals as it is. Talk to me about that. What would you say to a person who already feels like they're getting quite a few of their prospects and clients from referrals?
Well, first, congratulations. And they're probably in the minority. Most of the business owners I talk to get referrals, but they are just usually racking their brains on trying to figure out how to get more. And so if you're already getting a steady stream of referrals, this can absolutely enhance that. And some of the techniques will allow you to scale the referrals you're getting. So I talk in the book about the old model for getting referrals that most people use is a one-by-one approach. So I approach you and I ask you for an introduction. And if I'm really good, I'm asking you for an introduction to a specific person. See, I've done my homework. Most people don't do that. They make you do the homework. But if I've done the homework, I'm asking you for an introduction to one specific person. And so it's a one-by-one exercise. Using some of the methods that I describe in the book, you can change that, and you can take that same referral partner relationship or that same client relationship, and instead of getting them one by one, you can get them 5, 10, 20. The largest number that we've tracked so far is 248, which is the number of referrals I was able to gather through one relationship in a single week. And it can go that high. Normally it's 5 referrals, 10 referrals, 20 referrals at a time from a single relationship. And so real recently I've got one of my one-on-one consulting clients applied this. He's in financial services selling to doctors. And one of the things that we talk about in the book is to use an information piece as a way to package up yourself and your knowledge, and use that as the way to get introduced, rather than trying to initially schedule a meeting, because we find it just takes away all of that friction and that sales pressure. And so he put together a short little book. It was about 30 pages long. At the point that he did this, it wasn't even published. It was still being drafted and edited and all of that. And so he had a bunch of meetings lined up with his better clients, 3 that week. Goes into the first meeting, and I say, well, here's what you do. Okay, you tell him you've got the book coming out, and go and print a list of all the doctors that work at the hospital that this client works at, and focus it down just to the department that they're in. These were specialists at a major hospital. And so he did that, and he had 2 copies of the list. He took one copy and put it across the desk in front of his client and gave him a highlighter, and he said, I've got this book coming out, and it's really written for doctors, and it's about how to protect their income stream should they become disabled. It's a big problem for doctors if they can't practice. Right. They're out of business and they lose their income. Right. And he said, I've got this book coming out. It really details all of the things that doctors need to know, and here's a list of all the people that I'm aware of, all the doctors in your department at the hospital. Would you highlight the names on this list of who you think should get a copy of the book? And he walked out of that first meeting in 30 minutes and had 11 referrals.
Nice.
And within a week, he had done business with one.
That's
And
great.
he had 2 subsequent meetings with other clients, and at the end of that week, he'd gotten 30 referrals. And this is a guy who was struggling to get, 2 or 3 or 4 in a month. He got 30 in a week.
That's great. That's
so.
a great story. Yeah, I like that. I wanted to actually give you some input. Having read the entire book myself already, I enjoyed it quite a bit, which is the reason why I wanted to ask you on so we could talk about it. Interesting thing, which happened just recently, which kind of sparked my initial interest in the book. My 13-year-old is going to need braces, and he had to wait a while due to some complications. And it's definitely not one of those 6-month smile programs. It's more going to be like a 6-year program, it seems like.
Oh.
When you're in that type of situation and you have a distinct need, the natural thing is, well, you ask your general dentist. You say, whom do you recommend? And I have them here. They gave me four cards or brochures or whatever these are of 4 local dentists or local orthodontists in the area, and said, I should call one of the 4. And my first question was, well, okay, which one do you recommend the most? And they didn't. They just said, these are the 4 that we go to. And now I'm a marketer, so I'm going to dig a little bit deeper, but I'm articulating a lot of what I found patients are wondering. They went, well, okay, who's better at the type of care that my son needs? This is a medical decision, and they didn't have any particular information on any of them. What it boiled down to is things as simple as, well, these are the ones we don't get any complaints about. Like,
Right.
well, that's great. But what's interesting about this particular instance is I live in a very small town, and they're giving me 4 of these things. I can't imagine what it's like in a competitive environment. So I would say that even the folks in the orthodontics market, they believe that they're getting a lot of referrals, but are you starting to see how they're missing out? I mean, in this particular group, they've only got a 25% chance of getting me as a patient. So maybe you could speak to some of that. I mean, I think your book's approach addresses and solves some of those problems.
Absolutely. So if you're in a situation like that where you've got an upstream professional who has interaction with that client base, and you see this a lot of times in the medical specialties, and when I ran my last business, we were in that situation an awful lot. And one of the ways to attack that is to create what I call in the book a referral kit. And the referral kit is really just an information piece. And the financial advisor that I just described, his was a short little book. It was, I think, 12 letter-size pages that we reformatted down to a smaller book size and created about a 30-page bound, professionally printed book. So imagine that you're one of these 4 orthodontists, and you've got a short little book like that describes all of the common types of treatment, or describes simply just the process of what happens when someone becomes a patient of yours. When they come to the office, what's the experience going to be like? And talks about just a few of the things they can expect to encounter, answer some of the questions that maybe your front desk answers again and again and again, and also includes some comments from your happy patients. Now, you held up there 4, I wouldn't even call them brochures, they look like just little cards, right?
Right.
Okay, so imagine now if you've got 3 cards that are being handed to that potential customer, that potential patient, and your short little book, or an audio CD that the parent pops in the car on the way home from that visit, where they're listening to you describe, this same sort of information and answer their questions.
Right.
Who are they going to go to? Who's now more credible? Okay, it doesn't take a lot of work to put these together. It takes a little bit of thought, but not a lot of work. And all of a sudden, you go from being, one of 4, where you've got a 25% chance, to where you're likely going to get the vast majority, if not all, of the referrals from that source.
Right. Exactly. I think that even if you did a poor job of implementing what you cover in the book, I mean, hey, listen, it's great to be in this position because I don't know how many orthodontists are within a 25-mile radius or whatever it might be. I mean, it's fantastic that you've gotten over that first big hurdle and you've narrowed the field to 4. But I think that any orthodontist in this group, even if you did a lousy job, you should increase. Let's just say you narrowed it down so now you're a 50-50 shot. You've just increased your referrals from that single source by 50%.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do that with all of your sources, and now you've doubled your business. And,
exactly.
And spend essentially 0 on marketing and advertising.
Exactly. And it's not something you have to do over and over again. You do a little bit of work in a finite period of time, and once that's done, you're essentially done. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, these pieces generally will have a shelf life of 5 to 10 years, as long as there aren't major changes in the way that you do business. So you may want to go back and update here or there, but for the most part, if your business is pretty consistent in how you operate, there's often not a lot of need to go back. I've personally been using my own referral kit really very effectively for the last 4 years without any update at all, and so I eat the dog food.
That's important. Yeah, there are a lot of people out there selling stuff that I'm not sure they've ever used
Right.
on their own. Let's do one other thing here. What I wanted to do, you talked a little bit about, I've been around for a while, and I heard Dean Jackson used to talk about being referable. You talked about 3 qualities that are critical to being essentially worthy of getting a referral. That's one of the components of the system. Which one do you think, which one would you say business owners and professionals screw up or discount or overlook the most? Which characteristic of being a referral do you think they miss most often?
Sure. Well, in the book, I described 3 areas of your business that you could innovate and stand out from the crowd. And one is your product. And in a lot of businesses, if you control the product and you make the product, you can innovate there. The manufacturer I mentioned earlier does a great job of doing that. You can innovate process, so how you take somebody through the interaction with you. And there are little things you can do. There's one case study in the book that is just it's virtually free. What this company's doing, and it's stimulating referrals. And then the one that's discounted the most is the third, and that's personality. And it's the one that's accessible to every business. And so there are businesses where you cannot innovate the process or the product because it's heavily regulated. But you can innovate the personality of the business, and you can accentuate the personality of the business owner. And so I've got one client, again in financial services, who does this masterfully. He can't do anything with product or process. I mean, it's so locked down in that industry that there's very little he can adjust there. Right. So he's created this celebrity persona around himself. So he wrote a short book. He went and did a book signing and had a local charity sponsor the book signing. So all of their donors came in, which were all really good clients for him, and he donated all the proceeds from everybody that bought a book that evening to the charity, made the charity happy. Everybody was happy. He's done a number of charity concerts, which get picked up in the newspaper and on TV. His most recent one was a benefit for an organization called Honor Flight, which flies World War II veterans up to the monument for World War II in D.C. So he does a lot of things like that build his celebrity status. And so even in our little community, I mean, we're in a small city of about 150,000 people, he's able to really stand out from a large number of competitors. There, I would think, easily 4,000 or 5,000 competitors just in our town. So, so that's the one that's overlooked the most and the easiest to do.
Right.